after experiencing unexplained bites upon awakening. For weeks, Tom believed that the shelter he was operating had given him bedbugs. However, his wife gasped as she peered closer when they were watching their favorite movie. No, God. Tom scratched the back of his arm in exasperation as he startled out of sleep. Clara, his wife, who was sleeping next to him, also woke up from the minor disturbance. What is wrong? She inquired. Tom stroked his neck and sat quietly while her worried face filled his. This was the third consecutive week. He'd woken up to the same mysterious bites dotting his arms, neck, and back. The itching was unbearable and the welts were angry. Red honey. I think we have been infested by bedbugs, Tom said to his wife. Clara sat up in bed, shaking her head. I think so too, she sighed. I saw a tiny bedbug while changing the sheets before bed. I was to tell you about it in the morning. Tom looked at the cluster of fresh bites on his forearm. The first thing that came to mind was the shelter. He ran a homeless shelter in their small town, a place he was deeply passive about. But with the shelter expanding and so many people coming and going, it seemed inevitable that he'd bring something unwanted home. He sighed, brushing a hand through his disheveled hair. Let's figure it out tomorrow, he whispered to his wife, lying back down. Clara lay next to him. She went back to sleep immediately, but for Tom, sleep didn't come easily. The next morning over breakfast, the couples discussed the way forward. Though Clara was mad at her husband for bringing in unwanted guests and complaining about how she always had to keep the house clean, Tom managed to calm her down. Still, she immediately formed a plan of attack. We need to do something about this right away. If they're in the house, we've got to treat it, and the shelter too, just to be safe, Clara said to Tom, glancing at the clean kitchen counter. Together, they spent the next week tackling the problem head-on. They vacuumed, steamed, and scrubbed every corner of their home, tossing sheets, pillows, and even the old rugs into garbage bags. The same was done at the shelter, hiring a professional exterminator to inspect and treat the dormitories. However, weeks later, no improvements were seen. The bits still kept appearing on Tom. Each morning, he woke up scratching new welts on his skin. Clara, meanwhile, remained completely unaffected, making them wonder what was up. It doesn't make any sense, Tom exclaimed one night, his frustration boiling over. Why aren't the fumigating treatments working? And why am I the only one affected? Clara didn't have an answer to his questions. She was also exhausted from the constant cleaning and worry. So one Saturday night, she decided to take a break. With their minds always occupied with treating their house and the shelter, they hardly had time for themselves. And Clara made popcorn and they curled up on the couch to watch their favorite movie. Tom's head rested on her lap as they enjoyed the movie. For the first time in weeks, they felt like themselves again, laughing at old jokes and relishing the comfort of their home. All worries were gone, but halfway through the film, Clara's laughter faltered. She leaned closer to Tom, her eyes narrowing as she stared at his head hold still for a second. She said, her voice tight with concern. What is it, babe? Tom asked, confused. Clara didn't respond. Instead, she leaned in closer, brushing his hair aside to get a better look. Her hand flew to her mouth and her face went pale. God, no, she screamed, jerking back in horror. Tom froze, his heart pounding in his chest. What's wrong? He sat upright and looked at her. Clara didn't answer immediately. She was already scrambling for her phone. We need to see the doctor right now. I will tell you on the way, she said, and dragged Tom by the hand, leading him to the car at the clinic. The doctor listened carefully as Clara explained everything from Tom's bites, their failed attempts at bedbug control, and what she'd seen in his hair. Dr. Patel listened calmly, nodding while taking notes. Then he motioned for Tom to sit in the examination chair. Let's have a look, he said. He took a pair of gloves and parted Tom's hair, looking keenly. His skin showed little bumps that might look like tiny cysts. But when he grabbed a magnifying lens, the doctor discovered what they were hiding. Small holes dug into the skin of Tom's scalp, where microscopic moving creatures were burrowing. He let out a low whistle, stepping back. Well, I'm afraid to say this, but these are not bedbugs, Dr. Patel said, adjusting his glasses. It's something else. Have you recently been exposed to raw meat or people who might have ingested food gone bad? I work at a homeless shelter. Tom replied he couldn't be certain that the issue came from there, But he knew that some of the people he was helping were used to less than stellar hygienic conditions. This might explain how you caught it. The doctor said. Tom and Sally exchanged worried glances. Caught what exactly? Claire asked, her voice trembling. Dr. Patel took a deep breath. These might be bites from helmets, parasitic worms such as roundworms or tapeworms. People usually mistake their work for irritations caused by bedbugs, but they're not. These worms don't just bite. They secrete a toxin that is dangerous to human beings, mostly causing neurological issues in their host. Tom stared at the doctor, his mind reeling. What in the world was he just listening to neurological issues? Are you serious? He asked again, hoping to hear a different answer. Dr. Patel nodded gravely. Yes, and based on what you have told me, weeks of being in contact with these worms mean it's very likely you've already been experiencing symptoms. Clara gasped, her hands flying to her face. Oh my God, Tom, that explains so much. Explain what? What do you mean? Tom asked, his brow furrowing. Clara looked at him, tears welling in her eyes, threatening to spill. You know, lately you've been forgetting little things like where you kept your car key, locking the car, or even the names of people at the shelter. I have seen you struggle to remember obvious things. I thought you were just tired of every day's work. But now her voice broke. Now I know why Clara hugged her husband. She was afraid of the news. She couldn't bear the thought of Tom leaving her, let alone forgetting her. So what do we do, doctor? She asked. Her voice was filled with a mix of fear and determination. Dr. Patel placed a reassuring hand on Clara's shoulder. The good thing here is that you caught this just in time. These worms are dangerous, but their bites are treatable if addressed early. For now, I will provide a topical solution that you will use to wash his hair. The solution will kill the worms and their eggs. The couple listened carefully. You will then come back tomorrow and we will check the progress from there. We will involve a combination of medications to help your body flush it out and regain any lost cognitive function. You'll also need to come in for weekly checkups to monitor your recovery. Okay, so there's hope, Clara asked. As I have mentioned, we are lucky. It's still in the treatable stage. We can check the progress after some weeks. Tom nodded, absorbing the doctor's words. And what about the house and the shelter? What if these things have spread? What if I'm not the only one affected? Clara may have been because he rarely spends her time there. That's a valid concern. Dr. Patel replied, I'll recommend a pest control specialist who deals with rare infestations like this. You'll need to treat both locations thoroughly to ensure they're eradicated. As for the others, we might need to run them some checks. Dr. Patel said on the car ride home, Clara was unusually quiet. She just drove the car straight on. Tom glanced over at her, worried. What's on your mind? He asked gently. Clara's hands tightened around the steering wheel. I don't want to admit it, but I'm scared. She said, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm scared of what could have happened if I hadn't noticed in time. What if the memory loss got worse? What if you forgot? She paused, tears streaming down her face. The words seemed hard to let out. What if you forgot me? Tom reached out, placing a comforting hand over hers. Hey, don't think like that. You did notice. You saved me, Clara, and I'm going to get through this because of you. We will get through this, she nodded, but the tension in her face didn't ease. I've been thinking, she began hesitantly. Maybe it's time to close the shelter. Tom's head whipped around in shock. What? No? Why should we close the shelter? Clara took his hand. Listen, I know how much the shelter means to you. You have done a great job with it. She said quickly, trying to steady her boss. But look what it's done to us. To you. It's not the first time you've gotten sick because of it. I can't lose you, Tom, but I can't just abandon those people, don't you see? This is a sign. It's time to let go, Clara said. Tom was silent for a long moment, staring out the window at the darkened streets. Finally, he spoke. I get why you feel that way, Clara. I really do. But those people out there, they're just like us, trying to survive, trying to feel human. If we close the shelter, where will they go? Who will help them? Clara sighed, wiping away her tears. But we have to find a way to protect ourselves too. It's becoming too risky. Tom nodded. We will together. The following weeks were tough for the couple. It was a whirlwind of treatments, doctor visits, and pest control measures. The topical solution worked wonders. It killed the remaining worms on Tom's skin and in his hair. He then started taking medication to flush the toxins out of his system, and slowly but surely his memory improved. Clara worked tirelessly alongside him, supervising the pest control team as they treated both their home and the shelter. The specialists found several nests of tapeworms in the shelter's dormitories. They were likely brought in by someone who had unknowingly been carrying them. Treating the shelter was a painstaking process, but eventually the pests were eradicated. Through it all, Tom and Clara leaned on each other for strength. There were moments of frustration and moments of doubt, but also moments of hope. With the house and shelter finally pest-free, Clara began implementing new measures to prevent future infestations. She even installed airtight lockers for the guests at the shelter to store their belongings. Regular pest inspection were set up, and she educated the residents about hygiene and pest control. The changes she implemented made a world of difference, and soon the shelter was running better than ever. But the most important change was within Tom and Clara themselves. The ordeal reminded them of the strength of their bond and their shared commitment to helping others. Clara learned firsthand how helping people brought joy to the soul. Both her and Tom were more grateful than ever for each other and for the life they'd built together. Soon things returned to normal. Tom returned to the shell shelter, and everyone was happy. That morning, the shelter buzzed with quiet activity. As he walked through its doors, the residents greeted him warmly. Over the years, Tom had built strong connections with many of them, and they had missed him for the few weeks he was not around. These were people who had once felt invisible, but because of the shelter, now had a place where they were seen, heard, and cared for. Welcome back. Tom called out Marjorie, a sprightly woman in her 30s who had been staying at the shelter for several months. She was one of the success stories, actively searching for a job and getting back on her feet. "We had really missed you. I'm sorry for what you went through, and I'm glad you are back." Tom chuckled, adjusting his coat. "Thanks, Marjorie. How's the new job coming along?" "So far, so good. I love it," she said proudly. "I'm heading there later in the afternoon." "Good for you," Tom said with a smile, giving her a thumbs up before heading to his office. As he settled into his chair, he glanced at a framed photo on his desk, him and Clara at the ribbon-cutting ceremony. When the shelter first opened, he smiled, running a finger over the edge of the frame. This was a journey. The shelter wasn't just a building, it was a second chance for so many people, and it reminded him of why he fought so hard to keep it open. His thoughts were interrupted by a knock at the door. It was Clara holding a tray with 2 cups of coffee. She had now become part of the shelter, getting herself involved in its matters. "How does it feel to be back?" "I thought you might need this," she said, setting the tray down and taking a seat across from him. "Have I ever told you that you're the best?" Tom said, taking a sip of the coffee. You did an amazing job here." Clara smiled. "Thank you, baby," she said, holding a hand out to him. "You know, I think I finally made peace with the shelter." Tom raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Oh, what changed?" She hesitated for a moment, then said, "For the few weeks I've been here, I've seen how this place helps people. Then earlier on, when you came, I saw how people cherished you. They all have this look on their face like they belong here, like they found purpose. And I realized this place doesn't just help people survive, it helps them heal." Tom's eyes softened. "That's exactly why I started this. And it wouldn't be what it is without you. You've been just as much a part of this journey as I have, and I really appreciate your efforts to keep it pest-free." She reached across the desk, taking his hand in hers. "I just want us to be safe, Tom, but I know now that we can protect ourselves and still protect the people who need us." "That's my girl," Tom teased her later. That week, the shelter hosted a community dinner, a tradition Tom and Clara had started years ago to bring everyone together. Long tables were set up in the dining hall laden with steaming trays of food donated by local businesses. The air buzzed with laughter and conversation as residents, volunteers, and even former shelter guests shared a meal. As Tom moved through the room, checking on everyone and chatting with old friends, he felt a deep sense of gratitude. Clara was by his side, helping serve plates and engaging with the residents. Seeing her smile, seeing the way she connected with everyone, it reminded Tom of why he loved her so much. Near the end of the evening, Marguerite stood up and tapped her glass with a spoon to get everyone's attention. I just wanted to say something. She began, her voice steady and clear. When I first came to this shelter, I had nothing, no home, no ball, and no hope. But Tom and Clara, they gave me all three. They gave me a chance to start over, and I know I'm not the only one here who feels that way. So thank you. Thank you for believing in us when no one else did, and sorry for giving you worms. The room erupted into applause and laughter in equal measure. Tom and Clara exchanged a look, their eyes shining with emotion. Thank you, Marjorie. Tom said, his voice thick with gratitude. But the truth is, this shelter wouldn't be what it is without all of you. You've made this place a home, and as long as I'm standing, I'll do everything I can to keep it that way. As he drove home that night, Tom thought about all they'd been through and all they'd accomplished. He knew there would be more challenges ahead. There always were. But as long as he had Clara by his side, he knew he could face anything. Imagine waking up to mysterious bites and thinking it's just bedbugs, only to discover it's something way worse. What would you have done if you were in Tom and Clara's shoes?